Hello everyone and welcome back guys to a brand new video where Jamie and I are today back once more with the Unnamed Motorsport podcast. Yesterday, here to review the highly controversial Italian Grand Prix. There's actually quite a bit to dissect from this weekend, obviously apart from the major thing as well there. But quickly before we jump into that, Jamie, how are you getting on this week, mate?
I'm good, yeah. Didn't actually watch the race live, but I've seen what I need to see and have my own opinions, so it's all fine.
Exactly. This one is, I think, going to get spicy between Jamie and I as well. I probably should add as well, I've just had my second, the word you can't say on YouTube vaccine. So safe to say, I mean, I had it yesterday, so I'm basically dead today for this podcast as well there. So it's going to be an interesting one. I think we'll see how we fare as well over the course of it as well. But yeah, if I fall asleep halfway through, you guys will know why as well there. But yeah, let's quickly dive in then, first of all, of course, to the pre-weekend news that we kind of discussed. Now, obviously, at the end of the last podcast, Jamie and I predicted, apparently rather badly, who we reckon would be in the seats ready for 2022, of course, with Alfa Romeo, Haas, and Williams. Obviously, we already knew about Bottas going to Williams at that point. We'd basically said that Russell was going to get... Sorry, yeah, to Alfa Romeo even. That's really bad, isn't it? We'd already obviously confirmed as well that Russell was going to Mercedes, despite the fact that we recorded it before it was confirmed, but the video came out after it was confirmed. But then, Albon got confirmed to Williams, and that wasn't a major surprise, was it, Jamie?
I think I called
certainly
it.
Rather interesting.
Maybe
I think we both said it was going to happen.
Yeah, I think we said it was going to happen. I think so far, my out of the 6 drivers in the 6 slots in the bottom 3, I've got 5 of them right, and the one more is Guanyu Zhou, so that's going to happen as well.
Yeah, rather. Well, I mean, we'll discuss that in just a moment then. But yeah, Albon obviously got confirmed to Williams. Rather quietly, they confirmed Latifi alongside him again. I actually called that a few weeks ago, if you remember, back to when Tictum got dropped. I said that was happening then. Not really too sure why Latifi's been kept for another year, unless they just sort of want to benchmark him against Albon. But you had a year at Dams together, and Albon wiped the floor with Latifi there.
Yeah, Latifi's going to get rinsed again.
Probably. I mean, is he just going to be one of those drivers that we kind of always forget is in Formula 1, or do we think maybe at some point soon Williams might get rid?
He'll be gone, like, this will be his last contract, I'm fairly certain, unless he picks it up massively.
Really? I was going to say, because I think this is the thing, isn't it? It really depends on how well Williams are doing. Because if, say, for example, Albon's consistently sort of fighting around the points each week and Latifi's like 15th, 16th, then they're going to have to look to get rid. But if the car's still bad, it kind of like shadows Latifi's mediocrity, doesn't it?
Yeah. So it will remind me a bit of when Ericsson had been in the back market cars with Nasser and Verline and people like that. We never realised quite how mid he was. And then when Leclerc came in a decent car and scored like 40 more points, it was like, right, Ericsson's actually very good.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. As well, though. But obviously, before the weekend, again, sort of sad news, of course, Kimi Räikkönen. I think we kind of already had worked out he probably wasn't going to be at the Italian Grand Prix. But obviously, a little bit disappointed with that. I think a lot of the Italian fans are Kimi fans as well. They're obviously taking home Ferrari's last world title as well there. And their last non-fraudulent win. Yeah. Exactly, we can't forget that as well. So a little bit sad not to see Kimi, but again, we really sort of spoke about that last week as well there. And of course, the final sort of, not quite announcement just yet, but talking point that I'm sure Jamie's gagging to get into then, of course, is Guanyu Zhou looking likely to be moving to Alfa Romeo for next year.
Very good news. Very good driver. Everyone calling him a pay driver on Twitter can do one.
They've literally said they're willing to give the team £30 million or 30 million.
Yeah, Perez
euros.
gives Red Bull that much.
No, he doesn't.
He
Red
gives
Bull
them a
don't
lot
need
of
that
money.
money. No, Red Bull's sponsors and stuff, they'll have like agreements between them, but it's not just them giving Red Bull money, they work together and stuff.
But Guanyu Zhou has earned his place. He's like going to finish top 2 in the title, this F2 this season.
But I love the fact you've changed that from he's going to win the F2 title.
I can't be quite as confident this week.
Do you genuinely believe there's a good chance Piastri will beat him this year?
There is a good chance. Piastri always seems to have slightly more pace, but slightly less consistency. So obviously I hope Zhou can still do it. We need a bit of luck though. I think a DNF and a feature would be very helpful from Piastri, which could happen. It's 3 dreadful circuits though, so yeah, we'll wait and see.
We'll wait and see
but
about that. And
his top 2 will be, I think, basically guaranteed.
Yeah, it's looking more and more likely, isn't it, that it's going to be Piastri and Guanyu Zhou there, unless, of course, Schwartzman decides suddenly he's going to be good again, which is always a bit of a lottery call with Robert Schwartzman as well there. Personally, yeah, again, I think this needs to be discussed as well. Obviously, again, we touched on this last week. Because of how bad F2's calendar has been this year, most of the hype around who might get a Formula 1 seat has been based really on last year rather than this season, because no one really has followed this year. It's really odd, isn't it, still?
Yeah. So there's been a lot more rumours about Ilott than it has been about Piastri.
Exactly. Piastri won Formula Renault 2 years ago, won Formula 3 last year, might win Formula 2 this year. Literally the only other drivers in recent times we've seen do this are George Russell and Charles Leclerc.
And Nico Hülkenberg.
In recent times, Jamie, not 15 years ago.
Still did it. But yeah,
I think
that...
So did Hamilton. Well, Hamilton nearly did, didn't he? He did 2 years at GP2, I think.
Fraud. I think if the calendar had been more normal and more regular, there'd be a lot more chat about Piastri. And also, I think if Renault or if Alpine hadn't confirmed their drivers so early, then there'd be a lot more rumours about Ocon's seat, I think.
This is the thing, isn't it? I think really, because obviously you've got Guanyu, Zhou as well, and then their third is Lundgaard?
Yeah, Lundgaard's there as well.
Lundgaard. So, really, I mean, you were kind of, I think for Alpine, they don't want someone that's sat around in Formula 2 for 3 years. Obviously, you already had the GOAT Joni and Palmer do that for the team before. But I just don't think they expected to be Piastri as quick as he has been, have they? Because I wonder whether there would have been a bit more hesitation about hiring Alonso for another year.
Well, Piastri's done amazingly well. It's so difficult to win F2 in a rookie season, and he could.
Well, not if you're good.
Yeah, but if you win it in your rookie
2 seasons,
season,
fair enough, but 3 is ridiculous.
This is Piastri's rookie season.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. If you win it in your third attempt, you're pretty mediocre. Yeah, I know, and I'm saying if you win it in your third year, you're pretty mediocre.
What, like Jolyon Palmer?
Yes.
Well, that was his 4th year, I think. So.
Was it? Oh, Jolyon. Well, I mean, he got unlucky before then.
Okay.
And he didn't have Chinese money to fund him.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think...
Richard, for sure. Sorry,
that's terrible. That's so bad. I made that joke on Twitter this weekend, so that must be bad. Yeah, I think both drivers, Alpine, that's not his name, Piastri or Zhou, both completely warrant a call up to F1, but unfortunately the way it's fallen for Piastri, it looks unlikely to be this year, although it wouldn't surprise me at all for him to be a reserve driver and then a full driver in 2023.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it, of whether you wonder if he's better off not winning the title this year.
Almost, yeah, although rookie season title is a big deal. So. Yeah,
but look at Ilott and stuff, obviously. There were still loads of talks about him, and now that's kind of all got away, unless he suddenly takes the Alpha seat.
So I think he's gone to IndyCar now, hasn't
he? Yeah, he did an IndyCar race at Portland at the weekend, which was carnage, I must add.
Yeah, so it's very easy to go out of the public eye when you're an F2 driver, because even someone like Schwartzman, he was mad title favourite, definitely going to be an Alfa Romeo next year. He's had 4 bad races, or not even 4, maybe 2 bad weekends. The other 2 have been pretty decent, and suddenly no one talks about him.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
No, because again, he's been completely shown up by Piastri this year in equal machinery and an equal team. Very, very difficult, isn't it, at the end of the day there? And I really do hope, obviously, because again, this is the other talk with Guanyu Zhou, isn't it? Is he just going to be there as a placeholder for Pourchaire next year?
I think
in 2023 even.
It's possible, but I think the way that it works in F1, once you're in F1, it's quite easy to stay almost if you do good.
Yeah.
Because someone like Giovinazzi or even Latifi, or to some extent Mazepin, not really, he's just rich. But you do decent and you have money.
Guanyu Zhou.
Yeah, but people like Zhou and Latifi are decent and have money. So once you're on the grid, it's quite difficult to fall off the grid when you're rich.
There's sort of that sense of certainty, isn't there?
Yeah, Maldonado's
very, very difficult to judge.
So.
Yeah. Because, again, this all boils back down to Alpine need a junior team, or at least another team that they give engines to, don't they, desperately?
Yeah.
Because obviously there were the talks about Williams, weren't there? But that's sort of all completely gone now.
Looking like the earliest entry might be 2023 for a new team, but that's even stretch at this point as well. So.
Yes, yeah. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon.
But their academy's stacked, and they're still hiring.
They've got Alonso and
Ocon. Alonso's not mid. I respect it.
Well, I mean, one of them's won a race this year.
Oh, shut up! You know, for a fact that Alonso's been so much better than Ocon this season.
For most of it, yeah, I can agree with that. But anyway, yeah, enough sort of discussion about things that didn't even relate to the weekend. Whilst Jamie and I were writing the notes for this, I completely forgot it was a sprint weekend again. So, Friday night, Mercedes, we kind of predicted this heading into the weekend, didn't we? That Mercedes would be strong.
Yeah.
And they came out and dominated qualifying. I think they were basically 1-2 in every session.
Yeah,
in
and 3
qualifying.
tenths clear of third as well, I think it was in the end.
Yes, yeah,
Which
it
this
looked
year is quite a
comfortable
lot.
like after Q2.
Yeah.
Especially, when you consider how good sort of McLaren have been over one lap pace as well there. But yeah, Bottas rather surprisingly took the pole by a tenth over Hamilton. Obviously, it was already confirmed then he would take grid penalties on Sunday. So whether he won the sprint race or not, it wouldn't matter. He'd be starting from the back. It's just so stupid, all these rules with it, isn't there? Because really, what you'd want is Bottas taking those penalties ready for the qualifying race, gets back up to like 12th or 13th, and then can do a bit more in the race. Would it not?
No,
but this is the problem, isn't it?
Then it's tactical engine penalties, because everyone would take it at the races. You've actually got a race and a bit more than a race to make up the places.
Yeah, I suppose. But this is just the problem with sprint qualifying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it created so much oddities over the course of the weekend. Obviously, Latifi now has technically out-qualified George Russell. Bottas has got pole but started last at the same Grand Prix.
I mean, that's happened before.
Not often.
Well, not last, actually. Oh, in Hamilton 2012 Spain, he got pole. Vettel... No, that wasn't pole in Abu Dhabi.
That was fuel, though, not penalties, wasn't it? Yeah, it's all just a bit... let's talk about the sprint race then. Obviously, there wasn't really a huge amount that happened either, was there?
No, not at all.
Hamilton got an awful start. Let's quickly rattle through it then, I suppose. Hamilton obviously had an awful start, dropped down to... it was sixth at turn 1, wasn't it, in the end? Max Verstappen squeezed out, I want to say, Ricciardo?
Yeah, it was Ricciardo.
Ricciardo, who obviously then had to back up, and Verstappen
third.
obviously ran into him. Yeah. Obviously, then Gasly obviously went into the back of Ricciardo with nowhere really to go because obviously they concertined it up. Obviously, then Gasly lost his front wing and crashed at the easiest corner of the track.
Yeah,
Not
with the
really
front
a lot
wing
you can do
lodged
whilst he's
under a
in the
front
air.
tyre. No reason for it at all.
I must admit, the shot from Hamilton's car where you just see Gasly
really
just
scary,
go straight on. Yeah.
But the gravel
It
did a
just
good
looks mad. Exactly, yeah. And he managed to actually get the car rotating a lot more round than we originally thought he would as well. But, yeah, really after that, not a lot happened in the sprint race, was there?
No,
Bottas
just walked
and
away.
Max pulled away. Ricciardo and Norris held up Lewis as you'd expect them to. And yeah, like we said, Latifi now is officially after 50 Grand Prix for George at Williams. Latifi has now finally out-qualified him, despite not out-qualifying.
With a huge asterisk next to it.
Yeah, which it's just a bit egg, isn't it? Now we've got one more sprint race to go this year. It just hasn't lived up to the hype, has it? I think we can agree.
I don't mind it. I think it's better than an extra practice session, but it just seems a bit pointless at the same time. I don't know. I think they need to rework some elements of it, but as a principle, it's not terrible. There's been a lot worse.
I think what they desperately need, don't they, is Brazil to be an absolute banger, like changeable conditions or something like that. Because even Silverstone had a bit of drama to it, didn't it? Obviously with Perez's mistake and all this, that, and the other.
First lap battling was good as well.
First lap battling... Well, no, not in the... Was there much in the
Verstappen just
race?
went straight past, didn't
he? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think it just really does require a sort of a magical one. Because I must admit, for me, as I don't work Fridays... Unfortunately, on the one hand, it's really fun to sort of watch a qualifying on a Friday night. On the other hand, it completely screws me because I work Saturdays that I can't... Well, I work summer Saturday, which means I can't watch 2 of the Formula 2 races, which is annoying. I only get to see the feature race live, and I can't really record it either. It just doesn't really add a whole lot to a weekend still, does it? I don't think. It just confuses a lot of people.
It's very difficult to explain. Like...
it feels very forced as well, I think, is the problem. Like,
it's
you
forced
talk about
drama, 100%.
all the obviously the commentators and stuff are told to hype it up and say how brilliant it was, when you can clearly... It's like the AWS statistics, isn't it?
Yeah, they have to like it.
You can tell they're told to hype it up and make it seem cool, but it just adds very little.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously, like we said, Bottas won ahead of Verstappen and then Danny Rick P3. That obviously meant that Bottas with his penalties would start from the back anyway, so Verstappen had managed to egg pole at a track where Mercedes were half a lap faster than him over one lap pace.
Wow, that's like 40 seconds.
Well, yeah. Can we also, quickly, as we just talk about Alapa's Monza, I just want to give a quick appreciation to the fact that all of Monza's sector times are pretty even. and that makes me happy.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
The fact that all the sectors are around between 26.3 and 27 seconds makes me really warm and gooey inside.
That's the worst thing about Belgium is the
look, a lot
last
of tracks.
sector's
Abu
like 20
Dhabi,
seconds.
for an example.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, first and last sector. Abu Dhabi, the last sector's like half the lap in terms of time.
And the first sector's about 16 seconds.
Yeah, it's egg. But Monza, they know how to do it. 3
Yeah.
sector splits that are all pretty even in terms of time.
Yeah, brilliant.
I just wanted to throw that out there. I saw that and I thought, I like that. And I needed to mention it in the podcast.
This is crucial information you don't get anywhere else.
Exactly. You really don't get this sort of analytics in anyone else's Formula 1 podcast. But let's get on to Sunday then. Hamilton. Shockingly, it gets confirmed. Free race is starting on the hards. We also have all the drama down at AlphaTauri, don't we?
Yeah, I don't really see much of that, but as far as I can gather, Tsunoda didn't start at all. I think Gasly, within like 5 laps, had the same issue and also retired.
Well, Gasly reported an issue pre-race, and then Tsunoda was fine, and then suddenly Tsunoda's car was out of the Grand Prix before it began. So Gasly's road to redemption after last year's Monza win. What's that?
He would have scored the same amount of points if he had started Tsunoda, so...
Well, Tsunoda?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, George Russell managed to score points, so there was every opportunity that AlphaTauri could.
Yeah, but Gasly's well clear of Tsunoda. Tsunoda's rubbish, so...
It's Tsunoda. Well, again, we haven't talked about that, have we? Tsunoda obviously got confirmed again for next year.
Oh, yeah, and he acted really surprised about it.
Yeah, bless him.
I crash a lot, why have they kept me?
Yeah, which I thought was cute, bless him. But
yeah.
I think he deserves another year.
He does,
I think it's
definitely,
fair.
yeah.
He's still very, very young, isn't he? It's what we all sort of forget.
He's a day older than me, so absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and somehow you've got the humour of a 90-year-old man, but we won't dwell on that too much. But yeah, obviously, like we said, Hamilton took a bit of a gamble starting on the hard compound tyres for the race. Turn 1, it seemed to pay off. Got a decent launch. Obviously, Ricciardo stormed past Verstappen in towards turn 1, clear cut into the lead. Hamilton jumped Lando through the first couple of corners as well. So you had now Hamilton right behind Verstappen, who couldn't get past Ricciardo on a harder set of tyres. You come through Curva Grande, Hamilton pulls to the outside of Verstappen in towards turn 4, gets around the outside, side by side, Verstappen just slams the door. Your thoughts on that?
I mean, he doesn't slam the door, does he?
He does slam the door. There's even, I think,
Verstappen is
a tiny bit
on
of
the
wheel-to-wheel
inside.
contact. Yeah,
He doesn't run him out of road like Leclerc did.
he does.
No, there's
On
there's a
halfway through
car's
the
width.
corner, he does.
Yeah, but he's taking
No,
the
halfway
racing
through
line.
the corner, he slams...
He
but
knows that if he
halfway
takes
through,
that line,
Hamilton's already
Verstappen-
alongside him into the corner.
And the way the corner goes, he turned left, so Verstappen's got a much shorter line. So by the time he turned right again, Hamilton's no longer alongside.
He's still completely alongside until he has to back out.
No way.
Because you can maintain more momentum because you've got a higher radius to the corner.
That was a
lower
completely...
radius.
You're just saying words that you think sound good.
I'm speaking facts. We saw him do it to Seb in 2018.
I mean, he was way more alongside that time. I was trying to remember what you're on about then.
He was completely alongside this time. He was exactly the same amount alongside.
I don't think you're spitting facts.
I don't think you watched the Grand Prix, so you don't know what you're talking about.
I've watched the highlights. There was 2 things in the highlights. One was that, and one was the actual crash.
Yeah, right.
So that's one of the 2 things I know about.
And this is why it's so difficult to discuss this crash later on, isn't it? Because anything you can say about turn 1 being fair instantly makes the... turn 4 being fair instantly makes the crash later on seem more both drivers' fault.
Like, if I was in a league race, of which I haven't been for 6 months now, or something like that, and I was in Hamilton's position into turn 4, I'm fully expecting the car on the inside just to take their own line, because they're ahead.
Okay.
Which is what Verstappen did. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
They were completely alongside going into the corner, but
yeah.
okay.
And Verstappen, it's the same if you've watched F2, the Zhou and Deruvala thing, although that was a bit stupid because both of them just straight lined it and got away with it each.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
Yeah. Right, let's quickly then. We'll go back to that in just a second. Let's talk about the fact there was more carnage down at turn 4, wasn't there? Antonio Giovinazzi has no eyes, it's been confirmed this week.
And no spatial awareness, yeah.
Well, exactly. I think they sort of come hand in hand, don't they? What on earth was that against Carlos Sainz? I will never know.
I have no clue. He just jumped the chicane for no reason, trying to think he was a big man going past a Ferrari.
Yep.
And then just completely ran the other one out of road and spun. I was amazed that no one crashed into him. Because that could have been nasty.
That was pretty much a miracle, wasn't it? At the start.
Like, fully side on, blocking most of the track.
Yeah, because isn't how good Gio's been over qualifying the last couple of weekends? I'm guessing he was maybe trying to get redemption on Sainz.
Maybe, because Sainz sort of shut the door very harshly in
Zandvoort, yeah. Although we say that, let's be fair, in those split-second decisions, you don't really decide based on things like that, do you? But still.
It was just a bit of a clown move from Zhou, who I think he's on the way out anyway. So.
He's out the door, isn't he? Surely. Yeah. Well, this is what we said last week. Him and Schwartzman do a year in LMP2, ready for Ferrari's LMP-H project.
Still don't know what that means, but yeah.
Le Mans Prototype Hybrid.
Oh, cool. Yeah, sure.
Which you know nothing about.
I watch a lot of motorsport outside F1 and F2.
Exactly. Then obviously we also had Mazepin spinning his teammate Mick Schumacher around. That one
such a
actually rather
pointless
surprising.
crash. I don't know why.
It got cleared up though. Mazepin apologised, which I was pleasantly surprised by, and then also retired later on, meaning mathematically he is out of the title hunt.
Yeah, and so is
Mick Schumacher, but no one mentioned that, and Kubica.
Yeah.
Right.
So and Kubica also ahead of Mazepin in the championship now.
Yep, Mazepin is now 21st in the 20-car championship. GG's to him. Right, let's get into it then, Jamie. We watched the top 4 pull away. Max then has a slow stop, about 11 seconds then. I think it was a wheel gun issue, wasn't it?
Yeah, front right, I think.
Yep, front right. So he then is clearly very frustrated. He's on the radio to the team telling him just to leave him alone, all this, go away. Obviously very, very upset, despite the fact Perez is normally the one that gets screwed by Red Bull stops over the course of these years so far. Hamilton also has a slightly slow stop, doesn't he? It was about 4 seconds rather than sort of high 2s that Mercedes do. They come out of the pit lane, down towards turn 1. Hamilton's still in front. Verstappen then brakes, obviously on warmer rubber, brakes later down around the outside, gets about half the car alongside. Hamilton squeezes him out, or not. Verstappen won't back out. And we know the rest.
Over the curb onto Hamilton's halo.
Well, he hits the curb and then launches off Hamilton's tyre.
I think that the stewards got this wrong, personally. I think it's a complete racing incident.
I think the stewards have actually got this right.
Well, I don't really care because he's going to take engine penalties anyway, so the 3-place penalty was pretty meaningless.
Exactly.
But
yes,
on the entry into the right-hander turn 1,
Hamilton
does not leave the car's width for Verstappen. For starters,
in the same way Verstappen doesn't on the way into turn 1 he does.
Verstappen's got a wheel on the green.
It's still part of the track at that point, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's over the white line. Come on, that's what Leclerc did.
Well, yeah.
So, but he got away with it because it wasn't grass, luckily.
No.
So there's an issue for Hamilton, and
to be fair, Hamilton's car widths in front going into the braking zone. Verstappen sends it around the outside.
Verstappen brakes very late. To be fair, yeah.
Yeah. To try and get anywhere alongside.
He's fully entitled to put his car where he puts it.
In the same way Hamilton was at turn 4?
Yeah. And then the problem comes because the sausage curb on the inside of turn 2 launches Verstappen's car slightly in the air, which means he can't turn, which he probably would have done at that point. And then he's out of control and hits Hamilton, and they're both out of the race. So I think it's a complete racing incident. I can see why they've given a penalty, because at the end of the day, Verstappen has been the aggressor, and they've both ended up in the gravel out of the race. So I can see why it's been given.
Yeah.
But I think if it was the other way around, I don't think they would have given a penalty.
I think if it was the other way around, Hamilton would have backed out.
Yeah, he would have jumped over the curbs at turn 2, actually.
Exactly. And the fact that the thing was, I sort of felt with it all from the other side is clearly Verstappen was pretty annoyed at that point, obviously with the pit stop.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't necessarily mess up the stop, but he should have probably stayed in the lead, shouldn't he, down towards turn 1. He was already stuck behind Ricciardo. It felt like
nothing was going his way, almost.
No, it felt like, from my perspective, Verstappen had obviously clearly seen Hamilton come out the pit lane in front of him and just thought, sod it, I'm going to leave the car there. If he backs out, and I make the move. If not, we crash and we both go out.
Yeah. 100%.
And for me, I struggle when someone's got that mentality, when they just... Because he said afterwards, didn't he? He went, two cars have got to make it work. Verstappen is never a driver that will allow it to work for someone else. Why does he suddenly then believe that someone else needs to give him room?
It is a bit... I mean, he's just playing to the media there quite clearly, because what else is he going to say? Just, oh yeah, I made a mistake and took out Hamilton. He's not going to say that, is he? So, I sort of agree with Toto Wolff, which is rather worrying, when he says it was like a tactical foul in football. I think at the point when Hamilton leaves the pits on softer tyres,
Yeah.
he's going to win the race.
Like I said, Verstappen clearly just was like, if it doesn't work, we're both out. I don't care.
And if
at
Verstappen is
and you could...
behind Hamilton after the first corner, Hamilton's going to win and gain points in the championship. So Verstappen has to try something. If it works, he's up ahead of him and maybe beats him in the race. We don't know. If it doesn't work, they're both out. No one gains any points. So I can completely see why he did it. It was a little bit snaky. And in 20 years, people will probably call him Michael Schumacher because he deliberately caused a crash to help him in the title. Potentially. Maybe he writes an autobiography when he's 50. We'll have to wait and see.
The problem is Verstappen is completely bred into a culture where nothing is his fault.
But I think people would have said that about Michael Schumacher. And even after like Jerez 97 or Adelaide 94, Schumacher can admit they're both deliberate crashes, probably because it's quite obvious. So I think after he maybe retires, he'll be able to look back on it and be like, yeah, I knew what I was doing there.
Yeah, I mean, he clearly knew what he was trying to do there, isn't it? And I think this is the difficult thing, because again, it's so difficult, obviously, especially when you look at Silverstone as well. Verstappen's clearly very upset in that moment and knows exactly what he's doing, but again, and this is, I think, something else obviously we need to talk about as well quickly. Had the halo not been there, that could have easily been... Obviously, let's just talk hypotheticals here, and obviously we don't want to get too dramatic, but Hamilton could have been seriously injured in that moment.
Yeah, it would have been massive.
And I think this is why they've given the... Because let's be fair, had things gone really badly in that situation, Verstappen could have been banned for the rest of the year, had there not been the halo there.
Yeah, that's very hypothetical, but I'm trying to decide if I agree with you or not.
Exactly, that's what I mean, yeah.
But the halo did a very good job.
What's that?
I was trying to decide if I agree with you or not in the moment.
Yeah.
But the halo's there for a reason, and it did.
The halo
very well.
saved, and I think this is why the FIA have obviously almost felt like they have to give Verstappen a penalty in this situation.
It was a very dangerous incident to cause.
To this point, Verstappen hasn't had any reason to back out of moves because they just haven't done anything about it up to this point. And again, this is something we've discussed as well, haven't we, in the past, that we look back at the great battle between Alonso and Hamilton at Hungary. We've got now a generation of drivers that see Verstappen slam people out of the way, or not physically slam them out of the way, but just completely slam the metaphorical door shut.
Just like close the door when they've got the...
Lando Norris has now done it in Austria a couple of times. Charles Leclerc's done it before. Often. We're going to have a really big issue at some point where, despite obviously the halo coming in, there is still a good chance someone might get hurt because there's very little sort of almost gentleman driver racing respect at the moment, isn't there? And I think the FIA do genuinely need to have a big look at it.
Yeah. Well, it's just that quote, all the time you need to leave a space, which no one does anymore.
No, and I think this is the problem, isn't it? Because Hamilton has done that on occasions this year already. Imola, had he not backed out, he could have easily sent Verstappen barrel rolling into the gravel like we saw all those years ago back. Was it 06, wasn't it? It was a different corner, but could have been the same sort of idea. Spain as well has... Obviously, Spain, it was far more likely Hamilton would have come worse off in that situation. But even then, theoretically, Verstappen could have broke a suspension arm if he'd gone over the wheel.
It's just unnecessary risk, and the way the cars are designed, if you're on the inside, apart from Hamilton getting stupidly lucky in Silverstone, usually you're okay. That proves a point, actually. So, like, the car on the inside is the one, because there's no real force on the actual contact. It's usually the outcome of that, which is a spin or a flip or whatever. The car on the inside is usually gets off better
especially
than
if it's
the car
wheel
on the
to
outside,
wheel.
or at worst, it's you're both out. So, like, drivers on the inside just think they have such an entitlement. And I think I rewatched, obviously, when Gasly retired from a race, I had to go and rewatch 2020 highlights. And the way Kimi Raikkonen races everyone, there's the move where Sainz goes around the outside of Raikkonen at turn 1, and then a move later on where Stroll goes around the outside at turn 4. Raikkonen leaves exactly a car's width plus a few millimeters, and he does it perfectly. And both of them are really good overtakes, but they're allowed by Raikkonen because he's a respectful driver. And if it was another driver on the inside, they probably would just forced him out.
Because really now, I'd argue you've probably got 3 drivers that still most of the time do that. maybe a few more that I'm sort of forgetting. But really, you've got Raikkonen, Alonso, and obviously, again, because I think, and probably Hamilton as well, I'd say most of the time. Obviously, this one
Hamilton's
is a bit of an edge
willing
case.
to.
Yeah,
Hamilton's
but I
willing to
think
push
at the
boundaries
moment
now.
there is such a psychological war as well between Verstappen and Hamilton as well, because we've seen it before in the past. Most people jump out of the way of Max Verstappen
Yeah.
because they just know he's not going to back down. We saw, I think the first real example I can remember of this from Hamilton was Bahrain 2018, I want to say,
Yeah.
where
when
Verstappen tried to
sent it.
slam him out and Hamilton just wasn't having it.
Yeah.
And
gave
you
him a
know
transmission
full
damage.
well Verstappen is completely a driver that once he's done that to you, in the same way Senna used to be, wasn't it? Once you've done that once, they know you're psychologically buried, isn't it?
It's like Bottas
And
tax. He jumps out of the way of everyone.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly. Like Verstappen even has that, doesn't he? Bottas tax on overtakes. He says it doesn't count as a legitimate
Yeah, when
overtake. It was on
when him and
Bottas.
Ricciardo were talking about the best overtakes of 2018.
Yeah, moves of the year. Yeah.
And it was like, it doesn't count because it's on Bottas. Like, they literally said it to the
Exactly.
media. It's so bad. But I don't think the war, like, the psychological battle is going either way at the minute, because I don't think Verstappen's going to change his approach.
No,
I don't
Verstappen
think-
won't change his approach.
I don't think
and
Hamilton's going to stand for it.
Yeah, exactly. Hamilton knows full well he can't, because Hamilton just
Yeah.
won't now back out of things like that. Because obviously, we saw, like, for example, he could have done the same sort of thing to Alonso at Hungary. He could have just completely, like, sent it on him at a corner, forced Alonso out wide. Maybe he got away with it without damage. Maybe they both get a little bit of damage there.
Yeah.
But he has to drive differently with Verstappen because he's got to still prove to Verstappen that no matter how many times he tries, Hamilton isn't going to back down, isn't going to play second fiddle to him, like a lot of drivers have had to now.
Yeah, and it's interesting to watch it happen for sure, because
Again,
Like,
we've
yeah.
sort of seen it with... I remember Hamilton discussed it after Baku 2017, didn't he? It's talking about with Vettel. I can't remember whether it was the BBC or someone else. He was talking with after the season and sort of saying he knew in that moment he had Vettel in his back pocket. And that was it.
because once Vettel makes that really bad error with crashing into
Yeah.
Hamilton because he's mad,
Deliberately under
Yeah.
safety car.
he knows that he's got him sorted psychologically. Same thing sort of
Exactly,
happened in
and-
2015 with Rosberg, although he was able to fight back in 16. But like
Yes,
the amount of
yeah.
times that Rosberg tried going outside of turn one at Hamilton on like so many different tracks, and Hamilton
But
just
that
forced him
took a
out.
complete write off of a season for Rosberg. Whilst
Yeah.
Hamilton, obviously, he did well in the races, don't get me wrong. But he also did just a lot of stuff he wanted to outside of it. And that's the thing for Hamilton, isn't it?
Yeah.
He can have those couple of years where he does a lot of other stuff outside of it. And then he sort of gets that 1 year where he really needs to sort of like knuckle down
This is like a
and
2016
get
again.
the job
yeah.
done. This could end up being a bit more like 2016. But again, even then, Hamilton... I think because of the way 2016 ended up, where Hamilton was unlucky because of that engine failure at Malaysia. Rosberg, don't get me wrong, it was the greatest year he ever did in Formula 1. And out of the 3 years where they were close, was the one he deserved to win out of the 3. But you can't argue against Hamilton was also unlucky and could have easily won that title as well.
Yeah, for sure. But there were many, like Hamilton, even with the engine failure, he made like
He had
6 or
mistakes as
7
well.
bad
Don't get me-
starts.
It was almost the perfect storm, wasn't it, for Rosberg?
It was such a good season.
Where
I would love to
deep down
rewatch it.
he knew he was never on the same level as Hamilton,
Yeah.
didn't he? But everything sort of fell in place to Rosberg. Hamilton got unlucky a few times, wasn't quite in the right mindset at the start of the year.
There were some weekends
And he
where Rosberg
just
was
came out at the end.
unbeatable as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah.
But it
I think
just
I
it
remember,
all came together for Rosberg in the end, and I think he knew that, hence why he didn't race again.
Yeah, because he knew he could never top it, which is probably fair enough, because he was probably
Yeah.
right looking back.
Yeah. It gave Hamilton a new desire to go for it, didn't it?
Yeah, Hamilton's been on such a different level since 17 onwards, but the way
Exactly.
Verstappen's challenging him this year, I think if Verstappen ends up winning the title, then you've got the new challenge of Russell coming in. It could spell the end for Hamilton if Russell comes in and beats him.
Oh, yeah, and I think Hamilton knows full well he's probably only got another couple of years in the sport at most.
Yeah, maybe 2024, but we'll wait and see. But I
Yeah.
think if Verstappen wins the title this year and then Russell comes in and starts beating Hamilton, it will basically spell the end for Hamilton quite quickly. But then equally, it could easily be that Hamilton wins the title this year and then wins the title next year as well. And then he's
Yep.
here for 3 or 4 more years, so we don't know.
Oh, the thing is with Hamilton now, I think for Lewis, he would probably want to go out on a high, wouldn't he?
I don't believe that at
You
all.
don't...
If you remember
not?
how vicious he was to Rosberg when he retired after winning the title,
Yes.
he was like
yeah.
that. I could never do that. I could never leave after being on top.
No.
I don't think he goes back on that unless he announces his retirement mid-season.
That's what I mean. If he announces retirement, say for example, obviously he does next year, whether he walks away with the title or not, and then announces 2023, this is going to be his last year, and then wins it again. Fair play. He's done everything he's had to. He's proved himself.
He's been on his own terms the whole time.
For a lot of people, I think they would say Hamilton is the greatest Formula 1 driver of all time. It's still... It's never going to be a debate that gets fully decided. I think we both know that full well. And I think we've both got sort of our own ideas of where he ranks in terms of... Against, obviously, all the other legends of the sport. But Hamilton also won't be a driver that fades into obscurity either.
No way.
There will never be a time where... There will never be a weekend, even if Russell is right on pace with him, where you don't think Hamilton can do anything to match him.
Yeah.
Consistently.
And I think even the most fervent Ferrari Schumacher fanboys will admit that Hamilton's easily top 2. Like, you can't get away from that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And even for me, I still rate Senna as the greatest of all time in terms of being able to get the absolute limit out of a car because he was driving some of the most difficult Formula 1 cars of all time.
We should do a podcast on that, our top 10s.
We are going to have to, definitely, yeah. At some point down the line as well. I mean, we've completely gone off topic on this one.
Yeah, we're not talking about Verstappen
as well.
anymore,
There's not a lot else to discuss, is there, really, from
Ricciardo
this Grand Prix?
won.
Let's be real. Well, we got Ricciardo and McLaren winning, yeah. I mean, we'll touch on that in just a moment. But, yeah, I don't think this will be the last time Hamilton and Verstappen come together, and I think the only way things are going to change is if Verstappen has a couple more DNFs where Hamilton comes through to win it. If Verstappen gets to a few races to go, and say, for example, he has 2 DNFs in a row or something like that, and he's then getting 40 points behind.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Verstappen's self-confident enough to be resolute in his decisions and his decision-making. But
well, you say self-confident enough. I almost see it as a naivety of the fact he's brought up in this culture where Verstappen, they just genuinely don't believe he makes mistakes.
Yeah. I think he's managed to admit some mistakes.
It's dangerous to see.
Yeah.
In some degree, because again, you can't have a driver who simply never believes they can do anything wrong, because that's how people get hurt.
Yeah, because you do whatever you want, and then someone ends up in a barrier flipped or something like that.
You can't have a certain level of naivety, and I don't think Verstappen's reached that point just yet, but I think he's getting perilously close, and you just hate to think that there could at some point be, whether that be for him or for someone else.
I think it ends up like
he wakes
we got
up
a little
realizes...
snapshot back in Silverstone 2 years ago now in 19 with the Verstappen versus Leclerc, where both of them just refused to give up at all.
Yeah.
And the amount of weaving down the straights and high speed change the direction and stuff, it's going to end up with someone in a barrier at about 200 miles an hour at some point. So, I mean, it happened at Cops this year, but that was more unfortunate than inevitable.
Yeah. It's very, very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
To sort of still talk about, I think, at the end of the day there. But yeah, let's get back then to the Grand Prix. Quickly then, like we said before, we discussed McLaren's 1-2 and obviously the final race results. Let's quickly talk about Ocon and his squeeze of Sebastian Vettel. That got a 5-second time penalty.
Really poor from Ocon. So I mean, I've always been of the opinion that what Leclerc did to Hamilton should have been a penalty. I think everyone
is, aren't they, really? Unless you're a Leclerc fan.
Yeah. But obviously, because it's Monza and Ferrari in their first win in 9 years, they're obviously going to just let Leclerc get away with it and penalise any other time it happens.
And this is where, because literally, you watch those two moves side by side,
they
are carbon copies of each other. You can't say anything that Leclerc did that Vettel or Ocon didn't in that situation.
Yeah.
They are pretty much identical, and it should have been black and white. Either penalties for both or penalties for neither.
Yeah. But the FIA inconsistency returns.
Exactly. So. And this is, I think, is another debate, another can of worms that gets opened up with it, isn't it? Why don't we have fixed stewards for every Grand Prix?
I mean, 3 of them are fixed, aren't they? And then 1 driver steward.
I don't think so.
I thought that was how it worked.
More of them are changed around.
That's
in all
interesting.
Honesty.
But yeah, they should be fixed stewards, because the rules are so, and regardless how much you make the rules concrete, they're still going to be subject to interpretation.
Oh yeah, racing is so difficult.
So
like we said a couple of weeks ago about Massey, wasn't it? I can't think of a worse job to have in Formula 1.
Because everything you do, every decision you make has so many subjections to it. Yeah. That, like, it's impossible to please everyone. So at least have the same stewards having the same interpretation of the rules.
Yeah. Yeah. Twitter's also terrible. Again, we feel like we say this most weeks, don't they?
Yeah, people only go Alexander Merva for some reason.
Yep. I mean, as much as a lot of the Hamilton Verstappen beef towards each other is annoying and frustrating to watch as well, the one that really struck me, was people attacking Alain van der Merwe. How do people not understand the medical card doesn't go out there again in a Grand Prix?
Especially when they've seen Hamilton spinning the wheels.
Exactly. So. This is, again, the other thing, isn't it? You had all these Verstappen fans kicking off at Hamilton for trying to reverse whilst Verstappen's getting out of the car. That was just in retaliation because Verstappen didn't check on Hamilton.
Even though he did.
Afterwards. But he didn't know at the time, did he? He just walked off.
He glanced over and saw the wheel spinning and it's like, okay, you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so
and obviously
stupid.
you had this other thing as well about Verstappen trying to light up the wheels again whilst he's literally on Hamilton's helmet, or not at that point, wasn't he?
No.
It wasn't on Hamilton's helmet anymore.
But that's just him naturally trying to get the car going like you would.
No, that's the clutch.
Is it?
Yeah. That's what happens with the diff and the clutch at that point, is obviously because it's still in the air, it spins for a couple of seconds. Obviously the other wheel doesn't because it's on a surface.
Yeah.
But obviously the wheels then, just spin independently quickly, obviously because of the diff. Like, I don't genuinely think Verstappen did that deliberately.
Yeah, 17-year-old Twitter girls know better than mechanics and engineers.
Well, exactly. But yeah, just the attacks toward Alain van der Merwe were ridiculous.
Completely uncalled for. He literally saved a man's life less than a year ago.
Exactly. I think genuinely the medical team are pretty much the only ones that don't get things wrong in Formula 1.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the safety of Formula 1 and the medical teams are arguably probably the greatest asset we've got in the sport. I think for the wider
the best
audience.
they've ever been themselves. So.
Yep. As well.
Yeah.
Again, obviously we've already spoke about the halo probably saving Hamilton's life, or at least saving him from serious injury.
Yeah.
But how people can attack them, I think, is beyond preposterous.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Let's get into a more positive note then once more. McLaren, back on top at last. We'd wondered it through the weekend, obviously. They were pretty damn quick. They were on the pace with Red Bull, but things finally... I actually tweeted out Saturday, didn't I? You picked me up for getting one team name wrong, but still.
Racing Point don't exist in your book.
Racing Point, obviously. Alpine, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, AlphaTauri
Lotus
have all won Lotus as well have all won Grand Prix since McLaren last have, and finally they're back on top. And neither of us are Ricciardo fans. I think we can admit
I was
we
happy.
like Ricciardo, but I think we were. I'm a McLaren fan still, deep down.
I don't mind them. I like seeing people do well if I like them. So I was happy for Ricciardo, for sure.
Yeah, I think
Richard.
For Ricciardo as well, it is a huge booster.
Yeah.
But I wonder how deep down Lando Norris is a bit upset by that.
Yeah, you can tell he's sort of putting a face on it, like happy for the team and really happy that we're on too. But he could have won if he wanted to.
Bless him.
Yeah.
But you gotta think he must have gone back to that hotel room that night and thought,
that's a win.
That should have been mine.
It's like Ralph Schumacher in Spa 98.
How have I let a man that I've been destroying all year, crippling his value in Formula 1, and he's the one that comes away with the win?
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Norris, but I'm sure he'll get plenty of wins throughout his career. So.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, McLaren, like we said, first win in 9 years, first 1-2 in 11 years, which I thought was insane.
Yeah,
I thought they must have had a 1-2 in 2012 because of how rapid the car was, but apparently not. First non-Hamilton win for a British driver, obviously again since 2012.
Wow. Yeah.
No, that's not right.
Is it not?
Because Ricciardo won, not Hamilton.
Oh yeah,
not Norris.
He's not British.
No, Ricciardo's not. The Commonwealth isn't reunited again.
No.
That's a made-up stat. That doesn't make any sense.
McLaren with the most points
first
ever at a race
Australian
weekend.
win since
Ricciardo.
2012 Monaco.
2018.
Yeah, there wasn't Ricciardo.
Come on. Oh,
I'm just trying to pick up things.
You're talking rubbish.
Yeah, pretty much.
Ricciardo's won 7 races since the last time Webber won. So 8 races now. But yeah.
Yep.
McLaren with the most points ever at one weekend. No, that's not true either.
Not
Williams.
true either. We're just making stuff up. This is great.
They do have the first 1-2 of the season. That's definitely true.
Yep, that was actually true. Yep, which is kind of crazy, but on the other hand, not particularly, because Red Bull and Mercedes just sabotage each other for fastest lap bonus points.
Yep, and Bottas and Perez are rubbish. So.
Yep. But yeah, it was good to see McLaren back on top. I think we need McLaren back on top as well. But I can't help but feel like next year might be mediocre.
The way it's going, you've got arguably the 4 most exciting young drivers in Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris, and Russell.
Leclerc, Russell, Norris.
In the top 4 teams. It's going to be incredible if they're actually equal pace, which they could be come 2023 and 24. So, actually, 2022 exists as well. Why not?
I think the first year someone's going to come up with an eggy loophole that's going to destroy the rules.
Probably Mercedes, knowing that.
Quite possibly. I feel like, they wouldn't be this calm about it.
But like right now, there's so much. It's almost the closest it's been ever.
It'll either, be Mercedes find a loophole or Adrian Newey just pulls out wizardry.
Yeah. Comes up with a car with 16 rear wings.
Yeah. But I think there's going to be a lot of hype and excitement ready for next year. But we got to appreciate we've still got a mega title battle going on this year. But we had a mega title battle going on in 2017 and 2018 up to about this point. Things can still fall apart very quickly. 7 races to go. Yeah, that was about Singapore in 2017, I'd argue.
I suppose, yeah. It swung very quickly. All it takes is one more DNF. I mean, Verstappen has kind of already got his bad luck out of the way, it feels like. With the likes of...
Bad luck doesn't work like that in Formula 1.
No, not at all. But, like, statistically speaking, you should say he's going to be alright now. But yeah, Hamilton also... Obviously, we know he's a really good driver, but I want to hate on him a bit. He's not doing very well in terms of race wins by his usual standards, which... When I looked at it actually earlier, it was quite surprising quite how average he's been this season, because it's obviously 3 wins in the first 4 races, and since then he's had 1 win in the next 10. Which is like, wow.
But Red Bull have consistently, I'd argue, with the exception of Monza, where Mercedes should have won, and Hamilton, I reckon, still could have won. Not probably would have, but could have still won that Grand Prix.
He could have done, yeah.
Red Bull have had the faster car, and Verstappen is, on his day, a relentless winning machine.
Yeah. But then when you say that Ocon and Ricciardo have won races in that time...
Yep, that's also true. I can understand that.
Hamilton is doing distinctly average in terms of race wins. Obviously, consistency is still there, which is his biggest asset.
Yes, and I think this is the thing with Hamilton, isn't it, at the moment? He is much more consistent.
He's always on the podium, basically.
Yeah. I think I can sort of understand what you're saying with Hamilton, isn't it, as well? And I think it's very difficult because not often have we had a year where Hamilton's in a title battle with a slower car that... I think the thing was, what a lot of people forget sort of with like the Ferrari-Mercedes battle, wasn't it? That Mercedes was much quicker down the straights, Ferrari was much quicker through the corners. So although you had a couple of decent battles, really it was a lot of weekends. It was either clearly going to be a Ferrari
it's
win,
like damage limitation,
or it was clearly going to be a Mercedes win. We had it a bit more in 2018, sort of the halfway stage of the year before Ferrari brought their reverse upgrades on, where there were a few more Grand Prix that were a bit in the middle. But
yeah, almost every weekend you can bet on Hamilton Verstappen meeting on track somewhere, which is really good for the sport and like very exciting to watch. Yeah, and it makes a much better title fight than all the pseudo title fights people say happened in 17, 18.
I think 17 and 18 wasn't it? It was just the complete collapse. Like 17 I think both seasons. Had Hamilton and Vettel been in the opposite cars, Hamilton could have walked away with both titles still.
Yeah.
You can talk about Ferrari bottling it, you can talk about Seb bottling it as well, but they had a car capable in the right conditions of winning both seasons.
Yeah. But there we go.
Quickly, before whilst we're talking about sort of Mercedes and stuff then, shout out to Bottas, got his P45, dominated
very good. Yeah.
Qualifying, which was not qualifying, and then dominated the race that was actually qualifying. And then, really, up until he got to the Red Bulls and McLarens, did slice his way through the field, which we don't really see from Bottas too often, which is worrying because you'd expect that from Hamilton. But Bottas has been known in the past to just get stuck behind cars.
Well, even like 2020, he got stuck behind the midfield cars and just stayed sixth in the race. So, yeah, Bottas did very well. I think it was it's almost like a weight off his shoulders, knowing that not having the pressure on him of Mercedes and knowing he's on his way out, like. He doesn't need to care anymore. He doesn't need to perform.
He doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't care if he takes a risk and it doesn't pay off at this point.
So I was happy for him. I also saw a picture of who was it, Zach Brown and the two McLaren drivers on the podium celebrating together, and Bottas just stood in the background, like looking really sad. And it's like, this is a kid who was abused by his parents who sees a happy family.
Yeah, which is a terribly dark place to take this. But
it's true.
I saw that tweet as well. You're not going to be able to... McLaren won't have that environment if they're World Championship contenders.
And you're not able... Especially when
just
you're
can't exist in Formula 1. People just don't... It's a miracle that Bottas and Hamilton have stayed as decent as they are.
Well, it's because Bottas is so mid that he's never really an issue.
Exactly. It just can't exist in Formula 1. And I'm sure there has been some stuff behind the scenes this year. Like, sometimes you've sort of looked at... Because I think a lot of people saw Ricciardo go into McLaren and thought, great, there's going to be so much meme culture this year. It's going to be wonderful. Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo, king of the memes.
Yeah, teammates just don't get on.
No,
generally.
They're your rival. They're the person that decides how much you get paid at the end of the year, really, by other teams.
And if you stay at F1.
Yeah. Exactly. Like,
you can't
that sort of culture can't exist in Formula 1 forever. And I'm sure if McLaren get to World Championship contenders, people go, what happened to the Uwu McLaren that won races
Bring back Carlos
in
and
2021? Yeah. It's just egg, isn't it? People just don't seem to understand. It's a business and a sport at the end of the day, not just something for entertainment.
Yeah. It's funny, but there we go.
Yes. Quick shout out as well before we round out. George Russell, P9.
Yeah,
Williams getting points isn't mentioned anymore. 3 points in the last 4 Grand Prix. It was always going to be the way with Russell, isn't it? Took forever to get him, and now 3 buses arrive at once.
Yeah. So fair play.
Fair play to him.
Actually beat Ocon on pure pace as well, pretty much.
Yes. Yeah. We're hopefully as well, I think Jamie might have forgot about this, next week is hopefully going to be a special Schumacher documentary review podcast type thing, which we're going to do, because that comes out today at the time of this video going live.
Yeah.
Obviously tomorrow for us
on the weekend, I think.
I'm going to be hopefully watching that tomorrow as well. So yeah, make sure if you aren't already, do get yourself subscribed for that as well. Jamie, anything to add before we round off?
Schumacher's the GOAT.
Oh
no,
this is going to be another podcast down the line.
I'll wait until Hamilton's career is over before judging.
Yes.
But right now Hamilton's probably the GOAT.
Hamilton, had he scored 34 more points in the right times, could have been a 10-time Formula 1 world champion.
You could say if had Schumacher scored about 6 more points at the right time, he could have been about a 14-time champion.
When?
Well, 97.
97, he could have been world champion anyway, had he not been an egg.
If he'd have got through, they wouldn't have disqualified him from the championship. 99, he broke his leg when he was winning the title.
Still means he would have needed more than 6 points.
Yeah, it's true. 06 for sure.
Engine. Fair enough. That was definitely the one that got away.
Yep.
Apart from that, though.
98, was he good or not? I can't remember.
98.
I say I can't remember as if I was born.
Whooped him.
Yeah. But Schumacher's
I mean,
good.
I went down to like the final race of the year.
And if he didn't retire, he would have won 07, 08, and 09. No, not 09. 07, 08, he would have won as well.
But Ferrari didn't want him anymore.
They did.
No, they didn't. They'd already announced Kimi was replacing him.
I don't know why they obviously Kimi won a title, but fair.
Yeah,
we'll talk about this in the Schumacher podcast.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do a special podcast, aren't we? Well, no, I don't want to put it in the Schumacher podcast. That's terrible. We're talking about this whole documentary about him, and then we're just talking about how mid he is.
No, he's not. He's one of the best ever, easily.
Well, exactly.
And I really hope. It's not going to happen, but I really hope we see him in the documentary. I don't think we will.
We won't. I don't think.
Yeah.
But we can. Dream,
but I just want some information.
Yes, yeah. Jamie's a conspiracy theorist as well there. But
I'm not.
Anything to add before we round this out? I mean, this is, I think, been on par with the longer... These podcasts are just getting longer and longer.
Yeah, I don't know. We spoke about 20 minutes about F1 psychology, but it was actually quite relevant this week. It wasn't just talking about Hasses for 10 minutes.
No, or Loadcell Qatar.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Which still might come to the calendar. We don't know yet.
Yeah, it will, probably. No race this week. F2 and F3 at Russia is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, oh god, we're going to have to do so many predictions, aren't we?
I'm not talking about F3.
Let's do quick then Russia predictions for F1.
Bottas will get pole and the win. And then, not pole, he'll qualify third and get the win. And then, who else? Probably Hamilton, Verstappen. Why not?
Wait, so you honestly believe Mercedes are going to be in a 1-2 situation and they're going to let Bottas win?
Actually, that's true.
Yeah.
Bottas, Verstappen, Hamilton. They're both going to take engine pens and come back.
But Verstappen has to start behind Hamilton anyway. Fair enough. No, I'll fair enough. I'm going to go Hamilton, Bottas, Lando.
You're just begging that Verstappen has something go wrong now, aren't you?
No, I reckon he's going to start from the back and finish 4th.
He will be 4th by lap 10 if he starts last.
Or in a barrier.
Well, lots of cars might be in barriers, but he won't be.
Yeah, it'd just be like, what's it? The picture of the plane, isn't it? Like the
Get
top
a
of the
plough
tank
on
engine
the front
plane
of his
with
car.
all the explosions behind it. Yes, yeah. That as well. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching once again. Like we said, these podcasts are just getting longer and longer as each week
I'm
goes
very
on.
impressed.
I'm going to announce the clips channel soon as well. I have actually already made it, but I'm going to try and get a few clips on there. There are 4 already on there, so I might leave a link down below if I remember as well. But yeah, we'll be back next week discussing the Schumacher documentary, and after that, ready for the Russian Grand Prix.